We bought 50 acres of paradise. The dream, a custom barndominium. The reality, quarter mile of woods, brush, super soft clay in between us and the road. Today I'm taking you through all the backbreaking steps that were required to get us back here to where we could build. And along the way, you'll hopefully understand a lot more about the process and understand why tackling this on your own might be some of the toughest work you'll ever do. So as mentioned previous, we bought 50 acres and we want to build about a quarter mile back off the road, and the driveway is outlined in yellow there, as you can see. The land consisted of a lot of brush and some small trees, nothing major that we had to get out of the way, stuff we could use a dozer and excavator for without any trouble. You can kind of see a driveway outline in some of these photos, like right there. And we were going to follow this main path back to the area where the house would be built. Again, about a quarter mile off the road. So we started this in the spring of 2021. After a long winter, the ground was basically a sponge. So before we could even think of the driveway, we had to get the water moving. We brought in an excavator to clear out the old ditches. If you don't control the water, your driveway will eventually be a very expensive stream. So we spent a bit of time making sure we were trying to get the water flowing and moving away from where the driveway area would be. There were some old sluice pipes in place from previous owners, and we were able to utilize those to really get stuff working. After that, we turned our attention to the driveway entrance. We wanted to get this all firmed up and ready for some heavy equipment to come in and out of there. So we were able to work on a spot and work with the current sluice that was already there and get everything in, bring in some gravel, and get it tamped down and ready for an entrance. Once the ground started to firm up, it was time for the heavy hitters. We rented a dozer to handle the bulk of the earth moving. We cleared a quarter mile path back to the build site. We stripped off the topsoil from the driveway and the future yard area. You can't build on the topsoil, so we had to get down to the good dirt. In our case, it was a lot of clay. But my son-in-law did most of the work. This was something I totally underestimated, as I hadn't had any experience with this before. My mind was, we doze a path back there and we're good to go, but there ended up being a lot more to it with clearing things out, making sure your levels compared to the driveway were proper. This whole front area out by the road, we pushed so much dirt, and it actually made it really nice. It's a really nice area out front there and a nice entrance into our property, kind of really open out by the road, and then it kind of funnels down into some closer, very similar to the type of woods that was there before we started working on the vacant land. But we basically pushed all that out of the way, got the ground, and just started working our way back, clearing out space, the path of the driveway, some areas around the driveway. And then once we got back to the actual build site, really started to try to level that out, clear out the main area, get it to a point where it could dry up. We knew we weren't going to be building here for quite a while. Like I said before, this was in 2021, which was right after the COVID timeframe. So lumber, steel, and PVC prices were still extremely high. So we wanted to get this prepped and ready, and hopefully as soon as prices start to break, that we would be able to jump into things and really start working on our shell and other things down the road. But another thing that was happening was my son-in-law and daughter, they were going to be getting married, and they were going to have the wedding on our land, but in a little bit different spot back from here. So this dozer was great. We used it for a week and returned it. And then down the road, when they were looking to clear a spot for the wedding, another dozer was rented, but he rented that one. And then I was able to utilize that for the final prep of the house site, to once everything was dried out and everything, really level that out, bring in some other stone, and approach it with that. So that was our thing, minimize our costs. And I think that has helped us quite a bit throughout things, get creative and work with, your family and other friends to make it happen. Speaking of that, my son-in-law and his job at the time had allowed us to basically, if we could haul it away, we had access to um, bank run material that we could use for the driveway. And basically, that was free. Again, if we hauled it out of there. So we spent countless trips. Mostly my son in law, he would grab a load after work and bring it out to the driveway area. We would unload it and then use initially we start out with his old family tractor, and we would use that to spread it, and then tamp it down with a machine tamper, and just work away at it. We'd get it 50 to 100 feet at a time. Quarter mile of that was quite a few trips to get all the way back there. But at one point I rented a trailer, and both of us, him and I, made like 8 trips in a day to this site, loaded up, brought it back, and just finished out the driveway to get it back to where we were going to be building. So, if you're building from scratch and you don't have all the equipment or the resources, reach out to family, friends, see what can happen. And, in the end, a lot of sweat equity went into this, and it was a huge underestimate on my part from the beginning, but this really helped us. And again, we knew the timing would allow for it, as we weren't in a rush to get this in due to COVID material prices. So another tip and something that might help you is, a few weeks into working on driveway, we realized we needed more help. We decided to buy a used skid steer instead of renting one. This is my number one tip for anyone doing their own land prep. This machine was amazing. So we bought it used. It had all like 2,500 hours on it. Um, Over a year and a half of use, a little more than a year and a half, we had I can't tell you how many hours we used that, and for all the different things that we used the skid steer on. But if you do the math, it's amazing. A weekly rental for a skid steer like this averages about $1,200 to $1,800 depending on your area. We owned it for almost 2 years. Use it for drainage, stone, our septic system, just moving so many things and just being useful in so many different ways. Using moving lumber, big rocks, other things. So many hours we put on this, and in the end, when we sold it, because I had a tractor I was going to be using long term to do my, when everything was developed, to take care of my land, only lost about $1,500. So we basically rented it for almost 2 years for the price of a week's rental. So if you're in a position where you can afford and you can swing it to, buy a used skid steer, highly suggest it. The convenience of it, the speed, power of a skid steer is amazing. And, down the road, if you treat it right and you take care of it, you should get almost all that money back out of it. So that's a quick tip. Hopefully it works for you guys. So all in all, the process was very enjoyable. Again, we weren't in a rush, so we could take our time. I got to spend a lot of time outdoors, which I truly enjoy. Developing the land, and just being on the land that I'd recently purchased was very fulfilling to me. Seeing the sunsets and a lot of nature was great. So this was right up my alley, and I really enjoyed it. If you're in a rush and have a schedule, my approach might not be for you. If you have access to the financing to really pay someone to do this, it can happen a lot quicker and might be the better approach going, for you and your situation. Like I said, for us, this worked out great because we weren't in a rush. We didn't want to throw a lot of money into this. Kind of had some other things budgeted, but it definitely worked out for us. So yeah, I underestimated the time and the cost involved. I had zero land clearing experience, but I was lucky enough to have a knowledgeable son-in-law and the right connections. But even then, it was a massive undertaking. If you're going to start this journey, definitely prioritize the drainage. Look for used equipment along the way that can help you. Prepare for it to take twice as long as you think. It's a lot of work, but standing here now, it's worth every shovelful of stone and every trip that we had to make along the way. So thanks for watching. If you want to see the next phase of our build when we put the shell up, thanks so much everyone for watching. I really hope this content helps with your build, gives you some insight. It may not be the exact application that you are going to be doing, but hopefully it lends some knowledge, wisdom, and some experience into what I endured going through this project. So please like, subscribe, comment anything you have, any questions, any thing you would like to see down the road, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to throw some time into this. Take care, everyone. Thanks.